Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are continuing the conversation about environmental destruction, climate change, abrupt climate change, the ongoing run into the sixth mass extinction. And so on it goes. This is from The Guardian again. March 22nd, Oliver Millman. Great Pacific garbage patch sprawling with far more debris than thought. Excuse me. A patch of detritus is more than twice the size of France and is up to 16 times larger than previously estimated. An enormous area of rubbish floating in the Pacific Ocean is teeming with far more debris than previously thought, heightening alarm that the world's oceans are being increasingly choked by trillions of pieces of plastic. The sprawling patch of detritus, spanning 1.6 million square miles, more than twice the size of France, contains at least 79,000 tons of plastic. New research published in Scientific Reports has found this mass of waste is up to 16 times larger than previous estimates and provides a sobering challenge to a team that will start an ambitious attempt to clean up the vast swath of the Pacific this summer. The analysis conducted by boat and air surveys taken over 2 years found that pollution in the so-called Great Pacific Garbage Patch is almost exclusively plastic and is increasing exponentially. Microplastics, measuring less than 0.5 centimeters, make up the bulk of the estimated 1.8 trillion pieces floating in the garbage patch, which is kept in rough formation by a swirling ocean gyre. While tiny fragments of plastic are the most numerous, nearly half of the weight of rubbish is composed of discarded fishing nets. Half of the weight, Jesus. Other items spotted in the stew of plastic includes bottles, plates, buoys, ropes, and even a toilet seat. I've been doing this research for a while, but it was depressing to see, said Lauren Le Breton, an oceanographer and lead author of the study. Le Breton works for the Ocean Cleanup, a Dutch-based nonprofit that is aiming to tackle the garbage patch. There were things you just wondered how they made it into the ocean. There's clearly an increasing influx of plastic into the garbage patch. And with every single thing being sold wrapped in plastic, bottled in plastic, made with plastic, cars you drive made with plastic, it's not going to end anytime soon. We need a coordinated international effort to rethink and redesign the way we use plastics. How about not? The numbers speak for themselves. Things are getting worse and we need to act now. Plastic has proven a usefully durable and versatile product, but has become a major environmental blight, tainting drinking waters and rivers. Around 8 million tons of plastic ends up in the oceans every year, where it washes up on beaches or drifts out to sea, where the pieces very slowly break down over hundreds of years. Larger pieces of plastic pollution can entangle and kill marine creatures, while tiny fragments are eaten by small fish and find their way up the food chain. Plastic often attracts toxic pollutants that are then ingested and spread by marine life. It's estimated that there will be more waste plastic in the sea than fish by the year 2050. Much of the plastic waste accumulates in 5 circular ocean currents known as gyres found around the globe. The Ocean Cleanup has pledged a moonshot effort to clean up half of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch within 5 years and mop up the other rubbish-strewn gyres by 2040. The organization is developing a system of large floating barriers with underwater screens that capture and concentrate plastics into one area ready to be scooped out of the ocean. A prototype to be launched from San Francisco this summer with the aim of spawning a clutch of devices, each of which can collect 5 tons of waste a month, will, if successful, be followed by dozens of other boom-like systems measuring up to 1.2 miles long. The project comes With caveats, however, its system will not catch the proliferation of microplastics measuring under 10 millimeters, and the whole operation will require further funding from next year. Any successful cleanup may also be overwhelmed by a global surge in plastic production. A recent UK government report warned the amount of plastic in the ocean could treble within the next decade. There's a big mine of microplastics there coming from larger stuff that's crumbling down. So we need to get in there and quickly to clean it up, said Juice Dubois, a spokesman for the ocean cleanup. But we also need to prevent plastic getting into the ocean in the first place. If we don't manage the influx of plastics, we will be the garbage men of the ocean forever, which isn't our ambition. The problem with plastic pollution is gaining traction in diplomatic circles, with nearly 200 countries signing on to a UN resolution last year that aims to stem the flood of plastic into the oceans. However, the agreement has no timetable and is not legally binding. Dr. Claire Steele, a California-based marine ecologist who was not involved in the research, said the study provided great progress in understanding the composition of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. But she regretted that while removing larger items, excuse me, such as ghost fishing nets, would help wildlife, the cleanup would not deal with the colossal amount of microplastic. These plankton-sized pieces of plastic are pretty difficult to clean up, she said. The only way is to address the source, and that will require a radical shift on how we use materials, particularly single-use plastics such as cutlery, straws, and bottles that are so durable. We need to reduce waste and come up with new biodegradable alternatives to plastic, but one of the easiest steps is changing the way we use and discard the more ephemeral plastic products. So yeah, one thing you can do: no bottled water, no bottled water, no bottled water, no bottled drinks, no bottled drinks, no bottled drinks, no bottled drinks. It's very, very difficult to get away from this. I understand. Just minimize as much as you can. And if you do, try to recycle. No straws. No plastic silverware or forks. Resist these things making it into your daily lives if you can. That's why eating out is not a great thing. Eating at home is much preferable. You don't have to use all the plastic stuff. You can wash your stuff, wash your utensils. If you do eat out, just, no straws, no, just really minimize that stuff. But I know it's very difficult. Moving on. Washington Post, March 23rd, nearly 150 beached whales die after mass stranding in Australia. More than 150 short-finned pilot whales stranded themselves Thursday on the southwestern tip of Australia, stunning park officials and prompting a massive rescue effort to save as many as possible. The mass beaching likely took place sometime Wednesday night to early Thursday morning, local time, at Hamelin Bay in Western Australia, according to the state's Parks and Wildlife Service. Videos of the scene show dozens of the animals piled against each other on the shore, many with their tails still wiggling as onlookers expressed concern. Some whales were fully on dry land while others were in shallow waters. It's unclear exactly when the distressed animals were discovered. But by 9:30 a.m., about 75 of the whales had died, the Park Service said. Officials soon shut the beach down, issued a shark alert for the area, and rushed equipment and trained volunteers to the site to try to return the pilot whales to deeper water. The strength of the animals and the windy and possibly wet weather conditions will affect when and where we attempt to move them out to sea, Jeremy Chick, incident controller for the Parks and Wildlife Service, said at the time. The main objectives are to ensure the safety of staff and volunteers as well as the whales' greatest chance of survival. Despite their efforts, by noon, dozens more had died, leaving only 15 of the stranded whales alive. Oh man, by 4 p.m., that number had dwindled to 7 surviving whales. The rocky beach terrain and rough seas, as well as the now dozens of dead whales surrounding the live ones, were hampering rescue efforts, most officials said then. Weirdly worded sentences. The conditions are challenging, but we are doing all we can to give these animals the best chance of survival without risking the safety of staff and volunteers, Chick said, noting they would try to use boats to move the surviving animals to deeper water. Once we have moved the whales out, we will monitor the situation closely. As it is possible, the whales will come back into shore and restrand. This has often been the case in previous mass strandings. At 7 p.m., the Parks and Wildlife Service announced that all of the surviving pilot whales, 6 at final count, had at last been returned to deeper water. A photo of the scene showed a line of dark whale carcasses dividing the otherwise pristine beach and clear water. There are numerous theories for why mass beachings happen. Though the phenomenon has taken place for centuries, as documented by age-old engravings and paintings, whales and dolphins are both cetaceans. They're social animals that travel in close-knit pods, and some scientists believe they can become stranded en masse if the dominant member leads the group too close to shore while chasing prey or becoming disoriented. Environmental groups have also argued that sonar used to map the ocean floor or for military purposes can trigger mass strandings in dolphins and whales who can be sensitive to underwater noises. The Western Australia Park Service notes that short-finned pilot whales are particularly susceptible to getting stranded, citing 2 previous mass beachings that took place nearby in 1984 and 1991. They inhabit tropical and subtropical waters and may be seen in the hundreds, but groups usually number less than 100, the Park Service said. Short-finned pilot whales are closely related to long-finned pilot whales, although they have shorter flippers with less of an elbow. They have a bulbous forehead, but the flippers are less than 18% of the body length. Still, the largest mass stranding of whales in Western Australia involved long-finned pilot whales when 320 of the animals beached themselves in 1996 in Dunsborough, some 55 miles north of Hamlin Bay. Last year, more than 400 long-finned pilot whales beached themselves in New Zealand. Volunteers there were able to save 100 of the animals in time. It's one of the mysteries of nature, Ben Tannick, a coordinator with the state's Parks and Wildlife Service, told the Sydney Morning Herald Thursday as workers frantically attempted to save as many whales as possible in this latest mass beaching. Once they come ashore like that, they do deteriorate quite quickly. Who knows what the impetus for that stranding was? We can only guess. But things are not looking good for whales all over the planet. Lastly, I'm going to get to some sandbox news, and this is about AI and Facebook. And this is just a tweet that I saw that was very interesting. It's a tweet thread. This is from Francois Jolet, who I believe works at Google, works in deep learning at Google and neural networks. But anyways, he has a little bit of a thing about Facebook and AI. Although I believe that most companies, including Google, have a problem with this developing technology. The problem with Facebook is not just the loss of your privacy and the fact that it can be used as a totalitarian panopticon. The more worrying issue, in my opinion, is its use of digital information consumption as a psychological control vector. Time for a thread. The world is being shaped in large part by 2 long-time trends. First, our lives are increasingly dematerialized, consisting of consuming and generating information online, both at work and at home. Second, AI is getting ever smarter. These 2 trends overlap at the level of the algorithms that shape our digital content consumption. Opaque social media algorithms get to decide, to an ever-increasing extent, which articles we read, who we keep in touch with, whose opinions we read, whose feedback we get. Integrated over many years of exposure, the algorithmic curation of the information we consume gives the systems in charge considerable power over our lives, over who we become. By moving our lives to the digital realm, we become vulnerable to that which rules it, AI algorithms. If Facebook gets to decide over the span of many years which news you will see, real or fake, whose political status updates you'll see, and who will see yours, then Facebook is in effect in control of your political beliefs and your worldview. This is not quite news, as Facebook has been known to run since at least 2013 a series of experiments in which they were able to successfully control the moods and decisions of unwitting users by turning their news feeds contents as tuning their news feeds contents as well as prediction users' future decisions. I think it was meant to say predicting. I don't know if many people know about that, but this was Facebook confessed to running these psychological experiments on people. And if you think they stopped because somebody said, no, don't do that, I got a bridge to sell you. In short, Facebook can simultaneously measure everything about us and control the information we consume. When you have access to both perception and action, you're looking at an AI problem. You can start establishing an optimization loop for human behavior, a RL loop. A loop in which you observe the current state of your targets and keep tuning what information you feed them until you start observing the opinions and behaviors you wanted to see. A good chunk of the field of AI research, especially the bits that Facebook has been investing in, is about developing algorithms to solve such optimization problems as efficiently as possible, to close the loop and achieve full control of the phenomena at hand. In this case, us. This is made all the easier by the fact that the human mind is highly vulnerable to simple patterns of social manipulation. While thinking about these issues, I have compiled a short list of psychological attack patterns that would be devastatingly effective. Some of them have been used for a long time in advertising, e.g., positive negative social reinforcement, but in a very weak, untargeted form. From an information security perspective, you would call these vulnerabilities, known exploits that can be used to take over our system. This is some very true and very deep stuff. In the case of the human mind, these vulnerabilities never get patched. They are just the way we work. They are in our DNA. And this is actually why we have the consumerism that we have, why we have why we live the lives that we live, is because these vulnerabilities have been exploited for decades. This is why we need to deprogram ourselves. And in the case of human mind, blah, blah, blah. The human mind is a static, vulnerable system that will come increasingly under attack from ever smarter AI algorithms that will simultaneously have a complete view of everything we do and believe, and complete control of the information we consume. Importantly, mass population control, and particularly political control, arising from placing AI algorithms in charge of your information diet, does not necessarily require very advanced AI. You don't need self-aware, super intelligent AI for this to be a dire threat. So if mass population control is already possible today, in theory, why hasn't the world ended yet? In short, I think it's because we're really bad at AI. But that may be about to change. You see, our technical capabilities are the bottleneck here. Until 2015, all ad targeting algorithms across the industry were running on mere logistic regression. In fact, that's still true to a large extent today. Only the biggest players have switched to more advanced models. It is the reason why so many of the ads you see online seem desperately irrelevant. They aren't that sophisticated. Likewise, the social media bots used by hostile state actors to sway public opinion have little to no AI in them. They're all extremely primitive for now. AI has been making fast progress in recent years, and that progress is only beginning to get deployed in targeting algorithms and social media bots. Deep learning has only started to make its way into news feeds and ad networks around 2016. Facebook has invested massively in it. Who knows what will be next? It is quite striking that Facebook has been investing enormous amounts in AI research and development with the explicit goal of becoming a leader in the field. What does that tell you? What do you use AI RL for when your product is a newsfeed? We're looking at a powerful entity that builds fine-grained psychological profiles over 2 billion humans, that runs large-scale behavior manipulation experiments, and that aims at developing the best AI technology the world has ever seen. Personally, it really scares me. If you work in AI, please don't help them. Don't play their game. Don't participate in the research ecosystem. Please show some conscience. Interesting. I will link this below. So this guy's bio says deep learning at Google, author of Keras or Keras Neural Networks Library, author of the book Deep Learning with Python, founder of Wisp, learning platform for artists. Very interesting stuff. So yeah, you know, and that obviously coincides with what's going on with Facebook right now. They're in trouble for some a breach of public trust as far as users' information, and hopefully this will actually be shown. Hopefully the light shown on this will be much bigger than it may actually end up being. And Twitter has also been in some trouble as well, as far as their manipulation of feeds. And I mean, all of these platforms are engaging in algorithmic censorship and kind of feeding people the information. They're controlling the information that people are getting fed and seeing, and how people interact with each other. Hopefully, the light shown on this will lead to some kind of regulation, because even though these are private companies, I believe that there has to be some kind of standards and practices as to how they handle the information that people are engaging in. There has to be some kind of recognition of human elements and the right to not be manipulated and censored, actually, on many levels. Or they can actually just lose the platforms if people get disgusted enough with it. And I'm seeing it happen. I can't tell you how many people I've seen talking about deleting their Facebook accounts lately. I don't see people talking about Twitter that much, although I imagine that will change if things get bad. Excuse me. You know, if Twitter has some kind of public fallout that Facebook is experiencing right now, that the platforms themselves might start to fold. And I think YouTube actually on some level might have those problems, because people are jumping to other platforms, Gab and BitChute and DTube, excuse me, as a way to kind of like back up their channels and back up what they're doing, because YouTube is starting to abuse I think they're abusing their private company policies as far as like a platform. I mean, they can do whatever they want, but if people don't like what you're doing, they're not going to use your product. So it actually all relies on trust. And if you break that trust enough, that's the end of your business model and your business. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Hope to see you tomorrow with some more videos. Until next time, peace.